forced your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready. And we've had a very, very powerful impact.
It's almost just childish to see Trump in the White House spin. Well, actually, I forced Israel to do it. This is when Trump just becomes grating. You know, all those things we thought were charming 10 years ago or endearing or funny. Now it's just grating and insufferable. He's obviously full of it. That there's nothing true about that at all. This idea that, like you say, that Iran was about to attack us. Really? We have 2 carriers there. We got a dozen warships, 50,000 soldiers, half of our Air Force. And Iran was going to start the war against us. Does that even make any sense? That is completely made up.
And then Rubio says Israel launched an attack, so we had to because they were going to attack us. Now Trump goes, no, they were going to attack us with no information.
I mean, literally. But all right, I do want to get to this story real quick. Shocking. U.S. troops told Iran war is God's plan to bring Armageddon. So, yeah, let's get into that one.
Did U.S. invoke religion to frame war against Iran troops, with commanders citing biblical prophecies to motivate forces? Did American commanders reference Jesus in briefings, portraying Iran campaign as divinely ordained mission? In apparent desperation, U.S. troops hear Iran war described as fulfilling God's plan for end times. U.S. commanders accused of presenting Iran war through biblical showdown lens, blending faith with military objectives.
Well,
troops instructed to
that's why we need a separation of church and state, brother. Shoot, and church and military.
Anticipate return of Jesus per internal complaints from over 200 service members. Commander claimed Trump anointed by Jesus to ignite Iran conflict, according to soldiers' formal complaint. A concerning report has surfaced just days after U.S. strikes on Iran resulted in the death of Supreme Leader Khamenei, raising questions about the motivations behind the aggression. U.S. troops are reportedly being informed that the war with Iran forms part of God's plan to initiate Armageddon, framing the conflict in religious terms. U.S. commanders have allegedly instructed troops to prepare for Jesus' return, intertwining military objectives with apocalyptic narratives amid the tensions. Allegations point to commanders presenting the Iran war through an apocalyptic religious lens, which critics see as inappropriate for operational briefings. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation has fielded over 100 complaints from service members disturbed by this blending of faith and duty. One officer alleged a combat unit commander portrayed Donald Trump as anointed by Jesus during readiness briefings for potential deployment.
Hey, yo.
This complaint, filed on behalf of 15 others, including 11 Christians, a Muslim, and a Jew, arose from discussions on troops.
I mean, to sit there and say that, hey, yeah, you know, Trump's appointed by Jesus to carry out death on, well, one, of course, the Ayatollah, but in hands, innocent Iranian citizens, civilians. So you're telling me God instructed him to do that? Oh, yeah, shoot, not my God.
The support status. The officer argued these remarks destroy morale.
You must be talking about a different Jesus. Man, ain't mine.
And undermine oaths sworn to uphold the U.S. Constitution without religious overtones. A White House official denied that commanders issue orders rooted in end-time scripture, distancing the administration from the claims. The Pentagon has not directly addressed these allegations, insisting U.S. operations against Iran remain strategically driven rather than ideological. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has openly shared his Christian faith, including prayer meetings at the Pentagon, influencing the military's tone. On March 1st, Israeli PM Netanyahu referenced Torah passages, likening the Iranian regime to an ancient biblical adversary in public remarks.
He called them the Amalek. He pretty much said that these guys were the Amalek, and you know what happened to the Amalek in the Bible? I mean, bro, they were completely genocided, erased, and God told him to do it. So what, is the Iranians the new Amalek or something? Like, come on now, dude. I mean, because you said that about the Palestinians in Gaza, 70% destroyed. And of course, we got like what, 70,000 Palestinians gone, maybe more. Actually, more are being added as they're digging through the rubble.
This controversy unfolds as Iran's IRGC claimed a powerful strike on a U.S. Navy destroyer using advanced weaponry, per Fars news agency. The warship was hit with Gadr 380 ballistic missiles and Talay strategic cruise missiles.
But now that you know about this whole God's plan and you see what they're telling our guys in the military, you kind of see why people are so blinded by this. I mean, they're putting religion behind it, and that's scary.
I mean, I'm sorry, folks. I wanted to support Trump. I support the killing the carbon. That's why I hate this, because he's done a lot of good. We're watching Trump self-immolate on live television.
It is. It's a complete unraveling, and it's clear what happened there. I think, look, J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, they want to run for president in 28, so they know that their butt is on the line here. If this Iran war doesn't go well, there go their presidential ambitions. And so I think that when Rubio comes out and says, well, Israel made us do it, obviously, this is like a real-time narrative construction, so that when in 28 he's questioned about it on the debate stage, if this becomes a debacle, this is hedging. He can say, well, we didn't have any options. We had the choice. Either we go in with Israel at the beginning or Americans die. Well, I chose to, that's going to be the argument. That's going to be the campaign speech. That'll be the, screenshot this. In a few years, that is what he's going to say on the debate stage. We had a choice. If we didn't act, then more Americans would have died. And I stood with Trump. We made the bold decision to go in and blah, blah. That is clearly going to be the answer.
By the way, you're on a roll. You're on a roll. We got a whole other hour coming up. But let me just stop you. I said at the first of the show, they're going to use the insurance company shutting down the Strait of Hormuz as the claim that we've got to put a beachhead on the Iranian side so they can't close it to secure it for trade. I said I believe that'll be the excuse for boots on the ground, which they floated in the last 2 days, which Eric Prince freaked out about, rightfully. Ladies and gentlemen, he just put this out. Show the timestamp on this, guys. Scroll down. Pull it up. I just saw this now. Trump is now saying he signed an executive emergency order basically for war. If anybody tries to close the strait, it's already closed. So this is him using economic emergency powers to have an unofficial declaration of war. Nick, this is horrible. This is really bad. This is boots on the ground. So this is just a few minutes ago. What do you make of this, Nick Fuentes?
Well, it's like I said, we're being drawn in here. That is really the operative word. Nobody wants this. It's not in our interest. We are being slowly drawn in. And what that implies is that step by step, we're being dragged further into this. And that's always what happens. It always starts with, we're just putting maximum pressure sanctions. Well, we just killed Qasem Soleimani. Well, we just backed a cyber attack. It's always, we just did this one time. And all it does is increase our liability. It just increases our stake in this disaster. And so it was very obvious. Okay, we go in with the bombs really hard. We destroy the Navy. We destroy the missile launch platforms. Okay, well, then you get this logic like, well, you break it, you bought it. Now Iran inevitably is going to keep throwing missiles at us. We're running out of interceptors. So what do you do now? Iran is going to close the Strait of Hormuz. That's going to shut down 20% of the oil trade. What do you do now? Again, you're being drawn in step by step, and our share of this, our stake in this, is always increasing until you wake up and you find you're in this unthinkable scenario. So that's why I say, I don't know that we can rule out boots on the ground in the future.
Oh, but that's the plan. People go, oh, the executive order just says they'll protect the ships. Yeah, they're going to do it with troops. I already saw it. Roll the dice, but Iran is specifically for the interest of Greater Israel, with Huckabee now admitting Greater Israel, Israel admitting it, saying we're a superpower, bragging. Truly, the stereotype of Israel wanting global domination and trying to control the U.S. is now a reality. Just as it was 9 months ago when they said surgical strike, nuclear program, midnight hammer. And I said this is the prelude of them psychologically giving Trump, he thinks, a victory to then sell full war, even though Chairman Kane of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and others like Eric Prince that talks to the president and is very smart, said do not do it. The scenarios are too dangerous. And now the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Now the economy's in crisis. Now Iran is firing missiles never before seen that come in and then evade the interceptors. They're not surrendering. They just killed more of the leadership trying to elect a new Sauron on the Council of 12. And you study their power setup, it just gets more psychotic as you go deeper, and they're thousands deep. So this does nothing. And then the big bombshell, we'll cover this first with Nick Fuentes for the next hour and 45 minutes. Appreciate him joining us. Marco Rubio, to hedge his bets yesterday, we'll play the clip in a moment, says, oh, yeah, I mean, we had to go in because we give the weapons, that's why, to Israel. And so Iran's doctrine is to hit us and all our bases in any country that has our bases. So we had to preemptively hit them, or the missile attacks would have been much worse. So that's like, I had to attack you before you attacked me. And then I said at the start of the show, I said, Trump doesn't want people to know that the tail's wagging the dog. He's going to get pissed. Sure enough.
Here's the craziest thing, though. Rubio, in his first address to the people after our strikes on Iran, he literally said that, yeah, we followed up Israel. Israel said they were going to strike Iran, so we had to follow up on them. Then he comes out later trying to act like he didn't say that. And then when he's trying to sit there and give us our explanation, I'm sorry, but even his explanation sounded like we went in there for Israel because Israel was going to strike Iran first.
He said in the press conference with the German Chancellor Merz, oh, no, Israel didn't do this. Oh, we always attack during the day. No, you don't. That's way more dangerous for so many things. The stealth profile, just with the light hitting the wings, creates a bigger resonance, okay, because of ionization happening and other issues. And there's more condensation during the day, and it just goes on and on. It's not good to do these attacks. We never do them during the day. That's why I said they're going to hit Saturday about 6 o'clock U.S. time, the middle of the night over there. That turned out was the attack plan. Israel attacks first, hits the underground base with the Ayatollah meeting. This was Israel literally dragging us in to the beginning of a third world war. And now Rubio's like, oh, no, Israel didn't drag us in. You can't deny the fact that 200 Israeli aircraft, 30 attacked the command base in Tehran with precision-guided AI bombs. And then Israel, we now learn, has hacked into all the cameras and, of course, released the video of them being blown up in the bunker and brags, oh, we're in all their cameras. It's just unbelievable. So Israel's trying to get us all killed. Netanyahu's trying to get us all killed. Tucker Carlson's totally right that Bibi's out of control. Israel's out of control. And Nick Fuentes is totally vindicated in his predictions of all of this. Because last year, during the election 2 years ago, he said, Trump's going to go to full war with Iran. And I put pressure, we all did, and hoped that what happened last year, 9 months ago, wouldn't go all the way. But now we're here. And you read the Israeli papers and see the Likudniks, they don't even think about geopolitics. They don't think about the Strait of Hormuz closed and China all angry with half its oil cut off. They just literally have all the articles. We run America. We're the superpower. Yeah, we're going to get Turkey next. I'll play the last Israeli prime minister bragging. We may have to hit Saudi Arabia. So we got megalomania going on right now. And we have little time to turn this back. So let's go to clip 16. This is Marco Rubio. Yesterday, like, hey, it's no big deal. Israel struck, we had to. So literally saying Israel drives our policy. This is an admission. Now they're trying to put that back in the bottle. I don't care what Rubio said. I said that Saturday. We already know this. So now he gaslights and says, oh, no, they didn't. Oh, no, they did. Here's the clip.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now.
Hey, shout out to my man Chad. He sent $5. He had too much to say. He just wanted to show some support. I appreciate that, my man.
First is, it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United
Okay. So if Iran came under attack by anyone, and you're right, Iran did say that out loud, that if we come under attack by anyone, we'll be striking U.S. military bases in the region. So we both heard that, U.S. and Israel. We heard that. We said, all right, we're going to work things out. Israel heard that and said, this is the time to strike and drag America into it.
United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made, that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties.
Yeah, because if they already let us know that if Israel or anybody attacks them, they were going to start firing off on everybody. So we literally had no choice but to pull up and defend our assets. Like, I'm glad we did that. Excuse me. I'm glad we did that. But what makes me mad is the fact that Israel pulled us into it and made us have to defend our assets.
And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
So Israel hits them. So we have to go to full war now. And they try to claim, oh, we're just trying to get their missiles now. No, Trump says, oh, we killed 40-something, now we're kill the rest. It's about regime change. So these are clear promises broken. This is clearly unconstitutional, getting a congressional authorization. This is full war. It's out of control. I appreciate Nick holding while I did a 10-minute intro. Nick Fuentes is our guest. And again, people say, this guy's pro-white, this guy's whatever. We have major universities saying no whites allowed. We have whites of the devil must be exterminated in the New York Times. This is the natural response to that. So I don't want to hear a bunch of stuff. I always want to say that as a premise right up front. So Nick, you told us what was coming 2 years ago. You've been proven right. You know, you're like the new Alex Jones being right on things. So I want you to give your take on what's currently happening and then what you predict is going to come next. And is there any way to get Trump to extricate himself from this bear trap?
Well, I'll take the last question first. I think the answer is no. And I was very pessimistic about the prospect of that going into this administration. As you know, in 2024, I said that Trump is the Iran war candidate. It was inevitable that Trump would take us to war. And as a matter of fact, I think that's a large reason why he got elected in the first place. I think that if you look at the election in 2020.
Yeah, in 2021, now I see why Nick Fuentes said that, because if Trump didn't want this to happen, he'd have stayed under the JCPOA, because under the JCPOA since 2015 and enacted in 2016, Iran was keeping their enrichment down at 3.6% and keeping their nuclear stockpile below 400 kilos. So, and then in 2016, this is where we sent the inspectors over there to confirm if they're trustworthy enough to continue the deal. So for 3 years, we had 24/7 surveillance on their nuclear program. We had people staying there for 3 years straight. 3 years straight, guys, in Iran. All right, guys, 3 years straight in Iran looking at their nuclear capabilities. In 2018, when, I'm be real with you, Trump cut up or ripped up the JCPOA and got us out of it, that's when things went downhill. Because in 2019, and not only did he rip up the deal, but he imposed sanctions on Iran. The whole reason why Iran stepped into the deal in the first place was because Obama was taking those sanctions off. That's the only reason they even signed it, by the way. Once we kind of effed up our side of the deal and we didn't even want to participate anymore, why do you think that they're going to continue to participate? Like, the whole reason why they did this and they accepted the inspectors is because of the lifting of the sanctions. Now that that's no longer there for them and it was gone in 2018, a year later in 2019, they enrich uranium past that 3.6%. Then come 2021, now they're at 60% enriched uranium. Now I see why Nick Fuentes was saying, yo, he's a war with Iran candidate, because he kind of set us up for it.
It was obviously stolen and rigged. And so you say, well, how did he then come back and win in 2024? Well, clearly the riggers had to stand down and let him take office. And whether that's a combination of the media, social media, electioneering, whatever you want to say, they let him win. And I think they let him win because they knew that, unlike Joe Biden and unlike the Democrats, he was going to have no hesitation, no reluctance whatsoever to engage Iran and its proxies, which, of course, he then did throughout 2025 and 26. So as to whether he can extricate himself from the situation, I don't think so. I think that over and over, we see the same pattern where, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, Israel triggers a confrontation with Iran. And the United States does its best, I think, in both cases, in a Democrat or Republican administration, to mitigate the severity of the confrontation. So Joe Biden used deterrence. I believe that Donald Trump last year wanted that midnight hammer strike to be the end of the nuclear program, and one tap and the war. But of course, Israel has orchestrated all of these different confrontations. They're deliberately provoking and triggering them. And I think that was the same story here. What has happened, as you said, as Marco Rubio said yesterday, is that Israel came to the United States. Netanyahu came to the White House for, I believe, the 6th time since Trump took office for the 2nd time. And he told Trump, we're going in. And you can join us or you cannot join us, but we're going to attack, and your soldiers are going to be collateral damage. And so they forced our hand. And what is happening now, once again, is actually very much more of the same, which is that in the same way that in previous years, Washington and Tel Aviv actually diverge on their Iran policy. For example, Washington seeks denuclearization. Our doctrine is non-proliferation of WMDs. Our imperative is we don't want Iran to have the bomb. Israel, on the other hand, has always wanted regime change. And these are two completely different things. Israel seeks the termination, not just of the Ayatollah, but of the entire Islamic revolutionary government. And so that tension has characterized the three-way diplomacy between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. This war is more of the same. I believe that Trump went in knowing that Israel was going in. And I believe the play, to the extent that there is any kind of a plan, is Trump wants the Venezuela model. I'm sure that he, and I think Vance and the others as well, they thought they would go in hard and quickly against Iran, destroy the Navy, destroy the missile production, destroy the missile launch platforms, kill some of the top brass. And the expectation is that somebody from within the Iranian Revolutionary Guard would rise up as a pragmatist and negotiate with the United States for peace. And they would maintain Iran's government structure and security architecture while being pliant or compliant with the United States.
By the way, you're not just speculating. They admit this, an insane gamble, just a crazy shot-in-the-dark gamble.
Yes, and that is the correct word. It's a gamble. That is totally a roll of the dice, whether that will happen. We just don't know that. We don't know who that might be, if that will happen. Now, further, this is why this is the ongoing divergence in Washington-Tel Aviv policy. That's not going to be enough for Israel. Even if that was possible, let's say in your revolutionary, zealot, Shiite, theocratic government, you get a faction from the IRGC that wants to negotiate with Washington after they killed the Ayatollah and half the leadership and blew up the country. Even if that happens, will this satisfy Israel? The answer is no. Because what Israel is seeking is a total regime change. They want to install a liberal democratic government, maybe led by the Shah, or at least a transition led by the Shah. And why? So that they can manipulate the future state of Iran, as they did in Syria, as they did in Iraq, as they did in these other countries.
And that was my point from Saturday on, is you can look at this one-dimensionally. Yeah, Muslims are bad, but the British and the U.S. and Israel always put worse people in, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda in charge of Syria. The idea that oh, the West is this fairy godmother creating My Little Pony heavens is bullshit.
Well, that's totally true. And not only that, but I think it's likely at this point that a hardliner regime takes power, because who's going to be left after these people watch their leaders get killed and their colleagues and their own countrymen get killed? I don't think they become more compliant. And it's a country of 90 million people. They have 1 million soldiers between all the security services. I don't know that they're just going to lay down and beg for mercy at this point. Why would they?
Americans, even pussified Americans wouldn't do that. The Vietnamese, they're not going to lay down. They're going to get more aggressive.
They will, and that plays into Israel's hands, because then what this does is it basically reignites the pretext for war. So, the language in the Trump admin is escalation. We're going to bomb them even harder. We're not ruling out boots on the ground. It can always get worse.
Complete
and
surrender.
So maybe you get a ceasefire, a new regime comes to power, they don't surrender, and then we have to come up with a more permanent solution. And this is where now the U.S. is talking to the Kurds and talking about the Kurds maybe potentially being a ground force.
Now they're talking about breaking
militias.
Iran up, which is the Israeli plan to break up every country there.
Right, as they did in Iraq, as they did in Syria. That's the textbook Israeli grand strategy. So yes, and that's the thing. You never see the end of the Iran war. It's always, this is just the latest climax. This is just the latest ceiling of hostilities between the U.S., Iran, and Israel, which have been ongoing for decades. And I don't think this is the end of it. So I don't know that I'd
totally
be surprised.
agree. Do you think Trump even, I'm not trying to give him a get out of jail free card, but I actually know what your answer is. I know you're smart. Do you think Trump even understands this? An amateur.
No, I ain't gonna lie though. Shout out Chad. We both heard that too. Yeah. So we're just gonna bomb everything. Like a whole lot of innocent civilians dead, and we're just gonna think that these people are gonna align with us. I mean, the same people that you say that were against the Ayatollah, they're gonna need that water infrastructure too. They're gonna need those oil facilities too that we just destroyed. So I mean. We say we're for the Iranians against the Ayatollah, but we're steady making life harder and almost impossible for them in their own country. But we say we cared so much. And you know what? Let's be real. We all know it was never about the Iranian people. It was about just getting Iran to, pretty much bend the knee, kiss our ass. You can't have no nukes, no ballistics, no proxies. And apparently they were just supposed to accept that with us giving them nothing. You know what? They might have accepted that if we said, oh, we'll take the sanctions off. But no, they didn't even accept that. I'm be real. They didn't even put that in there. They didn't even want to take the sanctions off. Well, America did it, or our negotiators did it. So this is why we're here, because we didn't give the Iranians a deal whatsoever. We just told them to get down or lay down and expected good results out of that.
No, I don't think so. And I think he just overestimates his abilities. I'm sure that in part, maybe they did Venezuela to build up his confidence, because Venezuela is a totally different story. 28 million people. The regime's not loyal.
They did the limited bombing thing and let him negotiate and have Israel stand down. They did that thing last year, I said, to get his confidence up with Iran.
You did say that. I remember I was down there and you said exactly that. And I think that is quite literally the play, which is, you get that momentum, you get that inertia. And I'm sure they told him that this would create a deterrent effect. You do it to Venezuela, you can bring the force to Iran and say, hey,
remember, they got
look what we did
top
to this
psychologists, the really good ones, are studying Trump. I mean, they're pitching him bullshit, seeing what works, going back. I mean, it's disgusting.
It is, and they manipulate him. People say it's blackmail. People say they got a tape of him. I don't think it's that complicated. I think that they surround him, they saturate his information diet, and they form his opinions. They create the options. And the question is, where's the personnel? Where's Tulsi Gabbard? Isn't she the DNI? Where is she? Where's Vance? Where's Rubio? These are all supposed to be American.
I mean, shoot, bro, we tried to listen to Tulsi. Bro, Tulsi came out in her hearing and said Iran has that we have no proof that Iran was going towards nuclear weapons. And let's be real, they can enrich uranium behind our back to get it to 90%. They can do that. But as soon as they actually start putting it together to make a bomb, there'd be no way of hiding it without us picking it up. Do you hear what I'm saying? There'd have been no way Iran would have been able to make that bomb, even with the 90% enriched uranium, without us noticing. And it was going to take months out. We'd have noticed by week 1.
First people that we were supposed to be excited about in the cabinet. And what we find from the Times is that not even a single one of them told Trump not to do it. And these were all ostensibly supposed to be against the endless wars, the Middle Eastern
And by the way, I
conflicts.
didn't think you were wrong 2 years ago when you predicted this, or last year when you said it was, I hope we can avert this. But clearly now, if you follow Trump's psychology, I think he just doubles down. So where does that go?
So I think that it will end in regime change one way or another. You know, what happens imminently is sort of unpredictable. It's hard to imagine.
And like I said, the only saving grace is shout out to Jago Texas. He pretty much said, he's like, you know what, Seth, if this only lasts 6 weeks, like, are you willing to give him a bit of room right on that one? I'm like, yeah, because now he has enough time to recover. If this lasts months and the expense and the death toll gets bigger, it's only going to look worse for the midterms. So our only saving grace is if we can finish this by the end of the month. That's it. I mean, we didn't institute regime change. We took out the Ayatollah. We grinded down their military capabilities. Now let's just walk off into the sunset. If we could do that, great. If not, we might be cooked. I mean, honestly. And then, like, what's it going to take? The job reports for March for us to really understand how bad this is going to be on the economy? But it is what it is. Oh, speaking of the devil, man, shout out to my man, Jago Texas, for the 1,000 joules. Appreciate the support, my friend. And for every 100 joules is $1. So that's $10 right there. Appreciate that.
And how exactly the Iranians respond and what the Trump administration has up its sleeves in terms of escalation.
Cool.
But I think that Israel, clearly they're driving the policy.
Actually, my man sent 2 GOAT trophies. 2 GOAT trophies for $2,000. That's $20. That's a baller alert, my friend. That is a baller alert. Shout out to my man, Jago Texas.
See, they've orchestrated all of these events. They're not letting go until there's a regime change. And what Israel wants, they get. So I think that before the 4 years are up, you're going to see a full-scale regime change. And for that to happen, there's going to need to be a ground presence. Maybe that's partial U.S., partially it's militia or it's Kurds. I believe that is what was driving the protests even a month ago. It was all in the western half of the country, in the Kurdish part. And they.
Oh yeah, and I do got to get over to some gifts. So shout out to Cap for Life for sending the 100 for 2 joules. Appreciate the support. Shout out to my man Joe. He sent the floating art for 10 joules. Appreciate the support. And 4L Game Pala. I don't know why I like that name. Maybe because I got to Impala myself. But shout out because he sent a GLHF for 10 joules. Actually, he sent another one for another 10. Man, hey, shout out to the support on the gifts, guys. See him on StreamYard. I literally got to go to the YouTube chat directly to see those. So my bad when I'm late on them. They don't pop up like super chats do, sadly.
Said that these were people clad in black and they had automatic weapons and they appeared to be trained. So I imagine it's going to be some kind of smart power, multi-domain operation with the militias armed, maybe from Iraqi Kurdistan, which shares the border, and maybe from Turkey. And I think there's going to be some kind of force that comes in and forces a transition. I think that's, when you work out the math on that, I think that's all but inevitable. And it seems unlikely now, but it seemed unlikely that we'd be here. It seemed unlikely we'd be bombing Iran into submission or that we'd bomb their nuclear program a year ago. It just keeps escalating in that direction.
You predicted it because I watch your show. I watch clips almost every day, but whenever I can, I watch when I work out hours of it, every few days. You literally.
I'm gonna be real with you. I gotta admit it. Like, I was wrong too. Actually, I was hoping and praying. Nick Fuentes was wrong, even though before my eyes, I seen us ticking closer and closer to war with Iran. I was hoping that Trump was going to take some type of off ramp somewhere, but he didn't. He walked right into it. Like, and that's just the sad reality of it. Like, even everybody, trust me, everybody on the anti-war side was hoping Nick Fuentes was wrong. There was going to be no new war with Iran. He was just tripping. But that's what we all thought. We thought that he was just hating Trump because he just took this new position against Trump all of a sudden. We thought it was just that. Now we're seeing what it truly is. He had a good point that it does seem like Trump was going forward with war with Iran. And look where we're at right now. Like it or not.
Really, it was uncanny. I remember laid all this out 2 years ago. How did you know that? You just knew their policy.
They said it.
Yeah.
They said it openly. I appreciate you saying that. And it is true. I did predict it almost to the letter, but they were basically saying this in October 2023. Right after the October 7th attacks, the Israelis all came out and they said, this is going to be a regional war. We're going to destroy all the proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and then we're going to cut the head off the snake. They said, we're going to reset the international relations in the region that has prevailed for 50 years. And I think what they meant by that is this Islamic crescent headed by Iran, which was only the latest one after the Baathists, after the Arab coalition between Syria and Egypt. So I think that if you're really paying attention, even to the rhetoric from Trump, everybody forgets that the Israelis were whispering in Trump's ear that Iran was trying to assassinate him. Why do you think they did that? It's because they were already laying the groundwork. That was their pre-programming to sabotage that relationship so that they could tell him when he becomes president, hey, remember, they did try to kill you. And that was always meant to spoil diplomacy between the two countries.
Sure, let me ask you.
No, like, thing is, at first I didn't believe it, but shout out to my man Daniel Castro. He put me in the right direction to a case where a man did say he was approached by IRGC or Iranian officials to take out Trump. And he said he received the order, but he never really planned on carrying out the plan. And I mean, you can read this in the affidavit provided to us by our DOJ, provided to you guys by the DOJ. And you can read in here where he did say, yes, I was given a plan, or I was going to get paid by Iran to assassinate Trump. But he said he didn't take the mission. He said, nah, because Iran said, here, give us a plan. Let us know within 7 days if you're going to carry it out. And he never met back. But he did express interest in taking out Donald Trump for Iran. So that is basically an attempt on the man's life.
This question then, why do the Israelis for 5 years wear on a lot of their uniforms the Greater Israel map?
Oh, the only thing that they couldn't really verify if he was actually speaking to, Iranian officials. That's the only thing they really couldn't verify. But I mean, he said he was. So I mean, come on now. Come on. Most likely he was.
Why do they admit in their newspapers, then attack us and censor us when we say it, and then have dozens of articles a day, I can't even keep track of them, saying, we run America, we're the new superpower, we're going to take out Turkey, we're going to take out our allies through Obama. They took out and put the Muslim Brotherhood in. They created Hamas. I mean, we're sitting here watching. It's not just Netanyahu, it's the other main party and their last prime minister saying we're going to get Turkey and others next. I mean, and then they think we're going to go to war now with Turkey, the biggest conventional military in Europe.
Now that's crazy. You guys know that they have the Greater Israel patch on his IDF uniform? Yes. This little patch right here, you see this little shape? Yeah, that's supposed to be Greater Israel. I mean, where they take a good amount of Muslim land. Actually, it's right here. Shout out. So Greater Israel involves taking a decent chunk of Egypt, damn near taking all of Syria, damn near taking all of Iraq, pretty much all of Iraq, and then taking like a large chunk of northern Saudi Arabia and taking all of Jordan. Yeah. I mean, and that's the plan for Greater Israel. I mean, it's right here on the corner of the screen, and you can look this up. Bibi Netanyahu held up a map showing this. He said he feels deeply connected to the Greater Israel project. This is what they're going for.
I mean, it's like there's this giant buffet, and Israel's like a 1,000-pound fat person that wants us to sit there and hand feed all this at our expense. I mean, this is just megalomaniac. So I know Israel's smart in an evil way, but why do they brag? And I guess to enrage everybody else that's awake, because that just adds to the furor. Or what's going on here?
Oh yeah, and somebody said in the chat, someone's like, "Why are we going to war with Turkey?" Because Israel said so, bro. Their ex-prime minister came out and said that Turkey is the new Iran. I just want to let y'all know that, bro. An Israeli politician, ex-prime minister, literally came out. Naftali Bennett is his name. Naftali Bennett came out and literally said that Turkey is the new Iran.
I think that is a deliberate provocation. I think that, part of their entire MO is they actually need the conflict. They feed on the conflict. All of this was the result from October 7th. And after all, what was October 7th? Well, they called it the Al-Aqsa flood operation. Yep. What is Al-Aqsa? That is the mosque.
Well, the reason why the Hamas called it Operation Al-Aqsa flood, and that was October 7th. Yeah, October 7th had an operation name. It was called Al-Aqsa flood. And it's one of the main reasons that they attacked was a religious reason. that because Israel was planning on pretty much, well, destroying the Alexa Mosque, one of the holiest sites in all of Islam. And they were planning to destroy that to build the third temple. And I mean, bro, if you destroy one of the holiest sites in Islam, what do you think is going to happen? Bro, it's going to be a 5-on-1 on Israel, most likely.
That's the Temple Mount. That's the Dome on the Rock, which is in Jerusalem, which is the center really of the occupied territory dispute. That the Palestinians claim East Jerusalem as the capital, and they claim that's their third holiest mosque in Islam.
Yep.
And what the Jews did in Israel that precipitated the October 7th attack is they had all of these Jews go to the Dome on the Rock, go to the mosque in Jerusalem, to the Al-Aqsa compound, and they started doing their religious rites in a very provocative way. And actually, that was the precipitating cause.
And killing the red heifer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they already did that, though. So, yeah, part of the whole thing was, well, of course, you got to go to the Alexa Mosque, do the ritual, burn the red heifer, which is a red cow, perfectly red cow, ginger cow, burn it. And the ashes are supposed to have healing properties that these guys carry around, by the way. And then they also put some of the ashes among the wall. And now this is supposed to bring about the third temple. Now they have authorization to take down the Alexa Mosque, build the third temple, and that's supposed to bring back not Jesus, but their Messiah. But they convinced the evangelist Christians that's going to bring back Jesus. But no, it's going to bring back their Messiah. AKA, I mean, if we got a whole bunch of Christians worshiping their Messiah, that would be the Antichrist right there.
Yes, yes.
Now, you could take that with a grain of salt, but I wouldn't if I were you. Because I know what I'm saying is pretty out there. But please look that up. It is crazy because they already did the sacrifice. You're telling me they burnt a red cow as part of a ritual to bring back their Messiah? Are you really telling me this, said? Yes. And I'm dead serious.
Finding the red heifer, the unblemished heifer and everything. And it was deliberately intended to provoke the Muslims into a response. And I think that the stuff about Greater Israel, the goal is the same. It is to provoke these countries into conflict, because ultimately that is the way they're going to achieve their goals, is to elicit hostility. And then that's the pretext to bring in the United States to fight their wars for them. And I think that's the playbook from day one. So that is all part of it. Telegraphing that, signaling that, that's all part of the sick agenda, sadly.
No, I agree. So let's unpack this and how do we stop it? How do we stop it? We'll be right back with Nick Fuentes. Stay with us here to live feeds now. I am cutting this announcement to our VIP members and for the great customers at the so get them now. People ask, who do I have on as guests on a routine basis? Whether they're economists, whether they're strategy people, security people, journalists, it's who is the most accurate. It's a really easy rule. I want to be accurate. I want to be smart. I want to be informed. The more knowledge I get, the more I want factoids. The more I want to, it all interconnects.
Oh, man, shout out to you guys. We're about $18 away from opening up the call-in line. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the support, guys. Y'all been some real troopers.
And then
but let's not forget to double tap that screen, like the video, guys. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of y'all guys who watched this, probably about 250,000 or so who watched my channel more than 6 times over the past 6 months. So go ahead and end the cycle today and subscribe to the channel. All right.
Disdain on the left, right, anything. People that just pick up talking points and act like they know something. And what's frustrating is 90% of these so-called journalists and influencers, literally, you talk to them in person, they don't know anything. They sit there like deer in the headlights. My callers are infinitely more knowledgeable because, they're tuned in here. They probably were smart before they tuned in. That's why they look for something else smart. Bird of a feather flock together. But it's not about tooting our horns. It's about saying we need to save civilization and humanity. Nick Fuentes, you can disagree with his conclusions or what he thinks should be done sometimes, but you can't disagree with his analysis and the fact that he goes up against top geopolitical, White House advisors with 5 degrees and kicks their ass. So respect needs to be due. But also, it's not just the globals we're fighting. It's the low IQ people that we've woken up who are more like in high school and they want to, in a hierarchy, say, everybody's a globalist, but them. It's something that the Israelis and the other lobbies feed with bots to make us fight with each other. So we don't recognize the organic leaders that God has given us to lead us out of this. So I want to just say that right up front that I respect Nick Fuentes because he knows what he's talking about. I can disagree on the final product of thousands of points that go together, or say maybe this is better, and sometimes he's right more than I am. The difference is he knows what he's talking about. And I am sick and tired of having to debate low-grade morons that don't even know how to find their ass with both hands. So, Nick, let me throw this out at you because we got a lot of time here, and I appreciate it. But I want you to quantify before we go to these clips and unpack this and what you think is coming next, what you predict next, how we can stop this, which you already said we can't, which we still got to try. I think you're right. I'm about to evacuate to South America or something. That's where all the globalists are going. But
man, that boy Alex is going through it right now. You could tell. He's shell-shocked.
Here's my question.
Like, no, Alex Jones truly can't believe that Trump did this. Like, and you could tell Alex Jones, hardline Trump supporter. Like, bro, same as myself. But the thing is like, it comes to a certain point where you got to sit there and be like, yeah, this ain't it. This ain't America first, bro. This ain't even what MAGA was built on. But apparently, I mean, people are trying to gaslight us to make it so. Trust me, Alex. I feel you, bro. I feel you.